the relationship between people and animals around the world. And of course, this is really all about evolution. When we become incapable of killing a pig or killing a dog, essentially we're going to be incapable of murdering each other and waging war.
That's
so
right.
How do we evolve to that next level?
All right, love. Well, we just have to do it one step at a time. Actually, global warming is a tragedy. But in a way, it has a little positive effect in that people are united together to fight global warming. That's number one. And number two, people are getting more awareness about our co-inhabitants and how we should treat them. So I think that's already half of the next level.
Absolutely.
And the next we will go further and further, yeah, as we work along.
Dr. Tuttle, would you like to weigh on the evolution aspect of this spirituality crisis?
Yes. What I've discovered in my research into this for a long time is that all of us have been born into a culture that has an underlying hidden core that it is taboo for us to discuss. And it's taboo for us to discuss it as a culture because we, at a deep level, feel a lot of remorse and grief over the massive amount of routine brutality that we mete out towards animals for food routinely every day in this culture, for food and also for entertainment and for research. And so it's taboo to talk about this, and I think that's one of the main reasons this conference is so valuable, is that we're actually talking about what is taboo. And there's always this sense in talking about a taboo subject, there's just sort of this quality of, oh no, don't talk about it. But there's also an aspect of, oh wow, this is powerful to talk about, you know. And it's the very hidden shadow at the core of our culture, I believe. And what this core is fundamentally is a mentality of reductionism that we're taught from the time basically we leave our mother's womb and come into this world, and we begin to start eating the foods that we're forced to eat in this culture. After we lose our mother's breast, we're given the flesh and secretions of the animals that have been brutalized. And so we're taught from an early age to reduce beings to things, to mere commodities. So it's a mentality of commodification of life. It's a mentality of reductionism. It's also a mentality of exclusion, because we learn early on to exclude certain beings from the sphere of our compassion. And when we do that, we're automatically able to commit violence towards them because we say something like, well, they just were put here for us to use, or they don't have a soul. And every institution in our culture cooperates in basically ritually injecting this mentality into each and every one of us from the time we're born. The institution of our family, the institution of religion, the institution of education, the institution of the media, government, law, every institution in any culture all work together to basically let that culture reproduce itself, whatever that culture is, whether it's destructive and violent, or whether it's very, wise and benevolent. The institutions in that culture naturally work that way. And so what I realized is that we've all been basically forced into participating in daily rituals of violence that are based on reductionism, commodification, exploitation, exclusion, and fundamentally, I think even deeper than that, of disconnectedness, that we learn early on to disconnect the reality that's on our plate every breakfast, lunch, and dinner from the reality that it actually took to get it onto our plate. So we learn early on through practice the art of disconnecting, and we become masters by the time we're 10 or 12 or 15 years old of the art of disconnecting. And so we can be devastating the rainforest, cutting them all down, destroying them, and we just disconnect and say, well, it's not really happening. And the oceans are being destroyed, and we disconnect from that. And so I think at the core of this whole fundamental cultural taboo that we're talking about here today is a mentality that our culture yearns at its very soul and core to transcend, to evolve out of. I think that we know at a deep level that our purpose on this planet is to grow and to awaken and to be living blessings in the world, that we're here literally to bless the world and to discover our own unique way of being that blessing. And so This, I think, is really the challenge that we're faced as a culture, and why the greatest thing anyone can do is to become a vegan, because being a vegan is simply taking responsibility for the ripples that radiate from my life into the world, and it's a mentality of radical inclusion. It's saying I am going to include all living beings within the sphere of my compassion. And so it's fundamentally an extremely healing and life-affirming attitude, but it's not more than an attitude, it's actually living it. You can't be a vegan in theory only. It's practical. And that's why I love it so much, is that it's something we actually live and do. And I think on the outside, most people think of veganism as like you're saying no all the time, right? You're saying, oh, I'm sorry, I don't eat this, I don't eat ice cream, I don't eat eggs, I don't eat cheese, and no. And people go, oh man, you're really negative, you're just saying no to this and no to that. You won't go to the zoo, But actually, I think it's really important to remember that attitude that seems negative of saying no actually rides on a huge yes, a yes to kindness and compassion and sustainability and freedom and peace and blessing and justice to all living beings. And it's out of that concern that we're basically following a life where we show kindness and compassion to other living beings by refusing to pay our brothers and sisters to do the heartless and brutalizing and demeaning work of killing them. And Martin Luther King said that violence anywhere hurts everyone everywhere. We are all connected. And so I think it's important to remember that if I take out my wallet and I start paying someone to confine a cow or a chicken or to brutalize these animals for food in some way, that I'm actually the one that's responsible for that. I'm paying them to do work that I would never want to do myself. And so underlying this, I think, is really an incredibly positive message that we can transform our culture.
We can go all out and spread the news through internet, through flyers, through media, through television, and through word of mouth. We can offer them all the information that is very up to date now about the climate change and the solution. And right now the only solution, the best, the fastest, and the most effective is the vegetarian diet.
It has been a joy to have your charming company on today's Words of Wisdom. Please join us again tomorrow for Part 6 of the special rebroadcast of the live seminar, Climate Change International Conference, with special guest, Supreme Master Ching Hai. And now, please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television for music and poetry coming up next. Farewell, and God bless.